Tonight on NewsWatch, diplomatic crisis. The United States and China face off over a blind Chinese activist. What the situation means for Christians in the region.
Plus, a raging holy war. Terrorists murdered dozens of Christians in Nigeria. Why they say they won't stop until Sharia is the law of the land.
And tropical paradise off limits to American citizens. Why this vacation hotspot might soon be open for business. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Touchy negotiations underway tonight between China and the United States. Good evening, everyone. I'm George Thomas.
And I'm Lori Johnson. It's become a diplomatic dilemma. The U.S. and China are trying to work out the terms for the release of a top Christian human rights activist. Chen Guangchen is blind and made a daring escape from house arrest. He's thought to be in U.S. custody. The incident comes on the eve of major talks between Washington and Beijing. John Waggy starts our coverage with tonight's top story.
Chen is a leading foe of China's one-child abortion policy and is one of the country's best-known dissident figures. Beijing has held him and his family under house arrest for nearly 2 years. His dramatic escape from a heavily guarded farmhouse is an embarrassment for the government.
If they agree to Chen's very reasonable demands, which is just to put an end to his unlawful house arrest and to start an investigation in what happened to him, that would be handing a victory to rights activists in China, and that could galvanize this movement that the party sees as a threat to its powers.
As pro-Chen demonstrators gathered in Hong Kong, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was preparing to fly to China early this week for important talks. With Chen in U.S. custody, both sides are looking for a way out of the standoff.
If the Chinese want to play it down, we may reach some sort of agreement for him to leave the country. If not, this can fester and become a very big issue.
U.S. and Chinese officials were hoping to make the talks coming up this week an annual event to smooth out differences over the economy, trade, and strategic military issues.
Well, I think in all instances, the president tries to balance our commitment to human rights, and China-U.S. relations is very important, so we're going to make sure that we do this in the appropriate way.
Chen sent a video to Chinese leaders. He wants Beijing to investigate the beatings he and some family members received at the hands of the government. But if he and his family get U.S. asylum, activists say the Chinese will take it out on others.
And even if it's the government's fault in the first place for this absurd treatment that they gave to Chen Guangchen over the years, still this is something that they will blame on these activists and the people who've been campaigning for him over the years very courageously under high personal risk.
John Waggy, CBN News.
If Chen is in American custody, and there are reports he is in the U.S. Embassy, it's the first time since the crackdown in Tiananmen Square in 1989 that the U.S. has offered protection to a Chinese dissident. Well, George, you've reported extensively for CBN News from China. I think you were saying earlier you've been there 10 different times. What's your take on all of this? Do you think that the Chinese government is going to tighten its grip or perhaps loosen it?
I think the initial reaction was the authorities began to round up all those who were involved in this daring escape within the first 24, 48 hours. The various players were arrested, put in detention, but then suddenly it garnered so much media attention. The good news is that many of those who were picked up initially have been released. But, I'm not so much concerned about this next week, 2 weeks, because the focus is obviously going to be on Chen with Hillary Clinton's visit there this week. But I'm more concerned down the road, 2-3 months later, will we see the hardening of the security apparatus on various human rights groups? And that is a very real possibility. And there are serious questions about whether Chen actually wants to stay. All indications I have gotten, at least from the things I've read in the press reports, is that he doesn't want to seek political asylum in the United States. He wants to, in essence, he put out this YouTube video. He's not calling for the removal of the Chinese government. He's not even asking for the current leadership to be removed. He's basically, in essence, saying, look, there needs to be some justice, some really recognition of the rule of law in China, so that when there is a dispute, that citizens like himself can come to the local authorities and say, listen, what's up, people? Can you address my issues? I've got grievances against my landlord, against business partners. Find an equitable way to solve these issues. And that's really what's going on here.
Well, of course, our hearts go out and we pray for the Christians in China right now. What do you think, what type of an impact would this have on the house church movement there?
Yeah, I think, that is also the other aspect that I am concerned about, because the group that was involved in helping negotiate and in some ways preparing for Chen's escape is a prominent Christian group, China Aid, here in the United States, and is a group that is constantly highlighting the various incidents that take place against Christians. And my concern truly is that in the months ahead, that this will begin to, you will begin to see a crackdown against the house church, because in essence they will tie the two together. That here is a Christian group that allowed Chen to escape, helped to orchestrate that, and in the process, in essence, go after the underground church in the months to come. And this is we've really embarrassed in some ways. You've seen a huge embarrassment against the Chinese government. And here's a guy who's under house arrest, he's blind, manages to escape, scale a wall, and then make this trip to Beijing, not just to any home in Beijing, but the U.S. Embassy in Beijing, which is, that's quite embarrassing for the government. But we'll keep a close eye on this.
Absolutely, and pray for those Christians over there as well. Thanks,
That's
George.
Right. You're most welcome.
At least 21 people are dead after attacks on churches in northern Nigeria. No group has claimed responsibility so far, but there are signs the radical Islamic sect Boko Haram may be at work. Heather Sells is following this story tonight from the CBN newsroom.
These latest attacks appear to be part of a violent campaign that the group Boko Haram has waged for several years now in northern Nigeria. Its target is the government and Nigerian Christians.
We're about to start the mass. Then we start hearing gunshot. Pa, pa, pa. And I dash down because I'm a retired soldier.
The city of Kano is the epicenter of Boko Haram's holy war against the country and the site of the largest attack this weekend. At least 16 died after gunmen rode on motorcycles onto a university campus and threw grenades in an area where local churches hold services. As worshippers ran out to escape, the gunmen were waiting to shoot them.
It's very sad that this state and this country has to go through this very unfortunate situation.
In another city where Boko Haram once had its main mosque, another attack. In this one, gunmen stormed into a service and began firing. The pastor and 4 other worshippers died. In the past, Boko Haram has said the deadly attacks won't stop until Sharia law rules the country. Its ongoing efforts have created a spirit of fear in northern Nigeria. In January of this year, it launched its deadliest attack to date. Suicide bombers hit multiple locations in Kano, killing 185 people.
The bombs are increasingly sophisticated and powerful. So this has gone beyond a sort of local radical group.
Boko Haram has rejected efforts to begin indirect peace talks with Nigeria's government. And meanwhile, the killings continue. It's believed the sect is responsible for more than 450 deaths already this year. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Another item from Africa. U.S. Special Forces join Ugandan soldiers in the hunt for Joseph Kony. The African warlord is wanted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes and crimes against humanity. American forces have partnered with local troops there at 4 locations in Central Africa. It is believed that Kony is hiding out somewhere in the region. The U.S. forces are helping provide intelligence and communication skills to help locate the warlord.
Gas prices continue to fall this week. The average price for a gallon of regular gas is $3.82. That's 5 cents lower than this time last year and 8 cents lower than this time last month. Experts say crude oil remained stable last week, helping to push gas prices lower. This, of course, is welcome news to drivers after concerns that gas could reach $5 a gallon by this summer.
One World Trade Center is reaching a milestone today, becoming the tallest building in New York City. The structure known as Freedom Tower is being built to replace the twin towers that were destroyed in the September 11th terrorist attacks. Workers finished its steel skeleton today, making the building stand over 1,250 feet high. That's just enough to beat out the Empire State Building for the city's tallest building. That, when it's completed, Freedom Tower will likely be named the tallest building in the United States.
A federal judge stops Texas from denying Planned Parenthood state funds. The judge ruled that there is evidence showing the law is unconstitutional. He issued an injunction against enforcing the law until he can hear full arguments. Texas passed a law last year banning state agencies from funding organizations affiliated with abortion providers. 8 Texas Planned Parenthood clinics then sued the state.
Coming up, it's a paradise on earth, but it's illegal for Americans to visit there. We'll tell you where it is and why it may soon be open for business.
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare, call now for a new pain-free meter. These new meters are more accurate, they're easier to use, and the best news is you don't have to prick your fingers anymore. Call now, and Arriva Medical will send you one of these new meters for free. And if you have Medicare, your testing supplies may also be covered. Arriva makes it simple. They bill Medicare directly. There are no upfront costs, and they deliver your supplies right to your door for free. With these new meters, there's no coding, you don't have to prick your fingers, and some of these meters even talk.
Your blood glucose reading is 122.
And if you call 1-800-284-9762, we will send you a free Betty Crocker Diabetes Cookbook filled with delicious recipes.
Call Arriva today. You'd be glad you did.
Believe it or not, this is a catheter. It's the new SpeedyCath Compact for women. Now available from Liberator Medical with full Medicare and private insurance reimbursement. Stay tuned for an exciting free offer. But first, meet Julie.
You know when you leave the house and you say, okay, I have my phone, I have my keys, I have my wallet, I'm good to go? Now I always have to think of a catheter because I can't go without it. SpeedyCath came into my life and it is life-changing. They're tiny and thin and you can fit them in your back pocket. You can fit them anywhere you need them. This is a lipstick or lip gloss and this is the size of it. With this, you're only touching the outer plastic and you're never actually in contact with the catheter itself. You just really have to give a sample. That's all it needs is one sample and everyone's gonna want them.
Now, here's that free offer I promised. Call Liberator Medical. Get your free SpeedyCath Compact sample 6-pack. Shipping is free. 1-800-595-1446. 1-800-595-1446.
Well, summer's coming soon, and many people are already planning this year's vacations.
Yeah, and you won't believe where many of them will travel. It's the fastest growing tourist destination in the Western Hemisphere. Our very own Chuck Holton reports tonight from Cuba.
50 years after the United States imposed a trade embargo on Cuba, this island nation still feels the effects. Automobiles are considered a luxury, and the newest American car in Havana showed up in 1962. The average Cuban lives on just $15 a month, with many depending on relatives outside the country to get by. But it wasn't always this way. In the 1950s, Cuba drew many well-to-do Americans to its white sand beaches, only 90 miles south of Key West. After Fidel Castro took power, the tourists stopped coming, and Cubans went back to living as they had for generations. Now, hardcore socialism is fading, and visitors are coming back. In the resort town of Varadero, more than 1 million foreigners vacationed last year, making Cuba the fastest-growing tourist destination in the Western Hemisphere. Tom and Peggy came from Ottawa.
This seems to be the beautiful place to come this year. Everybody from work's coming here. Lots of people coming here. Seems to be the big hot spot this year, so that's why we're here.
I've been here at this resort at Varadero Beach in Cuba for a couple days now, and there are thousands of guests here, but I would venture to say I'm probably the only American. But that might be about to change. If the embargo ends,
this place could become a hotspot for American tourism like it hasn't been in more than 50 years. Right now, it's still technically illegal for Americans to come visit here on a tourist visa. During the Pope's recent visit, he called for the embargo to be lifted, and the Obama administration has indicated it would be willing to consider such a move. The Cuban people seem excited about the possibilities.
The tourism here is very good. Cuba is a very safe country. Things that your children couldn't even do at home, they can do here. We don't care about politics. This is the time to be making investments.
In my opinion, most of the tourists coming here today are European, but that is changing. We're seeing new opportunities open up here thanks to the government for Cubans and foreigners alike.
As the demand and optimism grows, more hotels are under construction here at Varadero Beach.
I like your music, America. Beautiful.
Chuck Holton, CBN News, on the white sand beaches of Cuba.
Tens of thousands joined mega pastor Joel Osteen in the nation's capital to pray for America. It's part of the 4th annual Night of Hope. It was originally scheduled for Saturday night, but weather postponed the event until Sunday. Osteen told CBN News his heart is to encourage people that God has good plans for their lives.
And so we just thought it'd be great to come and bring, hopefully, unity to the nation and just come and celebrate God's goodness here. I think another big part of these nights of hope as well is, Jesus made the statement, if you will acknowledge me before people, I'll acknowledge you.
Part of the event also included a 2-day outreach to the city. Hundreds of young people performed community service projects to show the love of Christ in practical ways.
Journalists, politicians, celebrities, and stargazers gathered in our nation's capital Saturday for the annual White House Correspondents Association dinner. Christian singer and former American Idol contestant Colton Dixon was CBN's special guest for the event. Dixon has been on a whirlwind media tour since leaving American Idol. 3 months ago, he says he was just a normal kid.
I wear my faith on my sleeve. So hopefully just by talking to whoever I get to talk to, they can see that. But just being able to share my faith on American Idol in front of 20 million people was crazy. Total blessing. I can't believe God used me in that way. And I'm excited to see how he uses me tonight.
Colton is currently making plans for an album that will be released later this year.
Up next, more than 50% of young people under the age of 25 are unemployed. Find out who they are, where they live, and why they're so angry.
John Mapes is 42, mortgage, married, 2 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. John can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $25 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll search the pick of insurers like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. John's wife, Carrie, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or visit SelectQuote.com.
Believe it or not, this is a catheter. It's the new SpeedyCath Compact for women. Now available from Liberator Medical with full Medicare and private insurance reimbursement. Stay tuned for an exciting free offer. But first, meet Julie.
You know when you leave the house and you say, okay, I have my phone, I have my keys, I have my wallet, I'm good to go? Now I always have to think of a catheter because I can't go without it. SpeedyCath came into my life and it is life-changing. They're tiny and thin and you can fit them in your back pocket. You can fit them anywhere you need them. This is a lipstick or lip gloss and this is the size of it. With this, you're only touching the outer plastic and you're never actually in contact with the catheter itself. You just really have to give a sample. That's all it needs is one sample, and everyone's going to want them.
Now, here's that free offer I promised. Call Liberator Medical Get your free SpeedyCath Compact. Sample 6-pack. Shipping is free. 1-800-595-1446. 1-800-595-1446.
The financial crisis in Europe takes another turn for the worse. Spain is back in a recession, and that downturn is expected to get worse in the months ahead. It raises the possibility that Spain might need a bailout package like Greece, Ireland, and Portugal. But Spain's economic minister tells Bloomberg News that his country doesn't need one. Tens of thousands have protested the government's recent spending cuts. Meanwhile, all across Europe, many in Europe are struggling as a result of the economic problems there.
And young people are among those hit the hardest. Dale Hurd brings us the story of Europe's lost generation.
Near Lisbon, Portugal, a locksmith is cutting the bolts off an apartment that has been repossessed by the court, and he's putting new locks on the door. The family isn't home, and the place looks like they abandoned it. The locksmith, David Justino, says, if it was just evicting adults, it wouldn't be a problem for me. We're all adults and we have to deal with it. What's hard is when there are children or disabled people. What some call a recession is in countries like Portugal, Greece, and Spain, a full-blown depression that's hitting young people and the elderly the hardest. In Spain, the unemployment rate is 23.6%, close to the highest levels in the United States during the Great Depression. But the unemployment rate for Spaniards under the age of 25 is an incredible 50.4%, the highest in Western Europe, higher than Greece. It's created a lost generation of 20-somethings with very bleak prospects ahead of them. The adoption of the euro currency was supposed to take Spain in a prosperous direction. Spain is one of the EU countries being crushed by the euro. The one-size-fits-all nature of the currency is actually fighting against Spain's efforts to recover. On the outskirts of Barcelona, you can see one of the cemeteries for Spain's shattered real estate bubble. Buildings once under construction, now abandoned. Gravestones for a boom time that vanished. Now Barcelona blogger Santiago Perez runs a website called The New Poor, where Spain's lost generation can share their struggles. His friend Eric Luent has already decided to leave Spain for Iceland.
We have no prospects. It is very difficult to plan your life here, so we are now thinking of moving abroad. It is strange how the economic crisis has changed our viewpoint so quickly and so radically.
Judith Santz is an out-of-work agricultural engineer.
I've been unemployed for 13 months now. Nowadays, things look so bad that I am contemplating the possibility of moving abroad. The way things look today, I'm seriously thinking about it.
Alberto Rodriguez says when he finishes his MBA, he wants to move to London. During the good economic times, Europeans assumed their lavish welfare state worked well. But a historic debt crisis, business failures, and high unemployment levels have created societies in which young people just starting out see no future, no way to start their careers. Many Western nations have made it hard, if not impossible, to be an entrepreneur. In Paris, Clement Grandjean found it so hard to start a business as a young entrepreneur that instead he started a Dilbert-style comic strip that makes fun of the business culture and government regulations in France.
All the ships look the same, so it represents the path that everybody will tend to follow if they were following what society wanted them to go.
While still working on his MBA, Grandjean was trying to set up a company to export French products to Japan. Then the French government started demanding money.
And I received a really, really expensive tax that I had to pay, even if I didn't make any profit, so we worked really hard. And then government were asking us like $2,000 each just for having creating the business, even if we earned $0. So we decided to stop the business before it became too expensive.
Grandjean considered leaving France, but decided to stay and try to navigate the business culture. But polls have shown most French young people wouldn't even think of starting a business. They want lifetime government jobs. Across Europe, the lost generation is angry because it believes it was handed a mess it didn't create. Too many also live with their parents, sometimes into their 40s, like Nuno Pinto in Portugal, who's already thrown in the towel and filed for bankruptcy.
I am 40 years old and I'm living off my parents. That's my painful reality. For that reason, I'm here to see if I can get what's my last chance at personal bankruptcy.
When these are the prospects that young people have to look forward to, it shows just how bad it's become for Europe's lost generation. Dale Hurd, CBN News in Barcelona.
John Mapes is 42. Mortgage, married, 2 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. John can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $25 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll search the pick of insurers like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. John's wife, Carrie, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or visit SelectQuote.com.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. Do you have breathing problems like asthma, chronic bronchitis, emphysema, or COPD? Then you may qualify for Medicare coverage of your respiratory medications. To see if you qualify, call Med4Home. Med4Home is a specialty pharmacy. They offer a wide variety of respiratory medications, which may be covered under your Medicare Part B benefits. Let Med4Home's team of experts work for you. They'll work directly with your doctor. They'll deliver right to your home and call you monthly for refills and to see how you're doing. Best of all, they'll handle the Medicare paperwork for you. It's so easy. And if you have supplemental insurance, there may be little or no out-of-pocket expense. Let Med4Home's team of experts work for you. Call Med4Home now to see if you qualify. For more information, call 1-800-321-0089. That's 1-800-321-0089.
And finally on our show tonight, from the perfect dress to the perfect shoes and accessories, preparations for prom, well, they can be stressful.
And expensive.
Yes.
Well, that's especially true when funds are tight. But an organization in Westchester, New York understands. They started OperationProm.org for underprivileged girls. Now local girls can pick out the perfect gown for free. The donated gowns range in color and size from 0 up to 28.
I was surprised they give dresses to girls that don't have enough money for dresses for free.
The other ones that aren't brand new still are new. They've only been worn maybe once or twice.
Go for it, diva. Let your inner lady, come on. Hands on your hips. That's right. Do your thing. Shoulders, do your thing.
Yes, I feel good. So we had a lot of companies donate dresses. We've had bridal shops.
Donated accessories like jewelry and handbags were also up for grabs. The organization even provided free tailoring and rental tuxes for the guys as well.
Great. And especially, getting creative in this economic times, that's great. And helping our kids go to prom.
And I think this is available in other cities besides in New York.
That's awesome.
That's all the time we have for this edition of NewsWatch.
Good night, everyone. Enjoy your evening.